Yeah, what's that?
Because I signed up to be a vendor down at Fremont Street to do comedy for the tourists.
Oh, cool.
You can do it for free in Vegas. And pardon me while I use this mirror for something good. Usually I'm like making sure my hair is perfect. Yeah, and
Look
so I get
great.
to do it today.
That's
We're
fun.
live, I betcha. And I
There we
tagged
go.
you in. Do you see it on your page, Nico?
Um, it didn't pop up yet.
Okay, I tagged you. So you might have to just go to my page and click share.
Yeah, all good.
So let me go to the intro and do a professional introduction of you.
Ooh.
One little second here. Facebook, wake up! Wake up! This is it. This is Comic Spot. And I want to welcome you. Thanks for always joining in. Today, we have an amazing person who's been all over the country doing comedy. I've watched him. I've seen him do Helium in Portland, Oregon, I think. I saw a bridge that looks familiar on the picture behind him. Did that show. Yeah. So this guy's done Seattle. He's done Portland. He's done New York. We're going to find out and everything in between, most likely. We're going to find out a lot about him. But first, look over in the other square. I know it's hard to ignore me because I'm so beautiful. But right now, this is about my guest. Wake up, people. My guest, Niko Lukoff. Welcome to Comic Spot.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Thanks for taking time, man. I just want to say thank you so much for being here. You sent me an intro. I'm going to read it. I quote him because I don't steal material. And that was my first year in comedy. Okay, here's the intro he gave me. And I quote, Niko Lukoff has been a joke all his life. Don't you love him already? And a year ago on a trip for work, he began to tell them to strangers, meaning jokes. Immediately hooked, he'd hit mics on his travel, primarily in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, that's where I'm from. When the pandemic hit, he created a Facebook group called Displaced Comedians for fellow isolated verbalists to connect. That's a great place to go, you guys. Displaced Comedians. He's since performed on hundreds of Zoom mics. What a bragger. What a bragger. And dozens of Zoom shows, including those on Palm Springs International Comedy Festival, which is no joke. Plano Virtual Comedy Festival, showcases on Flappers Burbank on Zoom, where he currently hosts the Thursday night Zoom open mic. That's kind of braggy, and that's what I asked for. Thank you and welcome. Let's get down to it. What's up?
Hey, just hanging out on a lovely Saturday afternoon with you.
Yes, I got my TV on behind Sinbad. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I left the TV on. Oh well. Never said I was perfect. So talk to me about how you were on a trip for work. What kind of work was that you were doing where it was so boring, so bad, you decided to hang out with, fellow suicidal people to make strangers in a PC culture laugh?
I'm very fortunate that I am still employed, which is and maybe until they see this, maybe we'll see. So I'm in sales, and the company I work for, we sell the equipment that's used in fun markets like breweries, even like dairies, bakeries, even extraction on the cannabis side and hemp. So some fun industries, and my territory is the Northwest, and I just happened, I think a lot of people probably like a couple years before actually doing my first, mic, just had thought up some bits and thought they were super funny and full of, it wasn't, but and then I was like, just one evening I was finally like, look, after I wrapped up for work, I can either like, hang out in my hotel room, or I can like go do something. I was like, I'm gonna go, and if someone will have me, I'm gonna sign up and tell jokes, or tell what I thought was jokes. So I looked it up when I was at dinner. I was looking at my phone. I was looking up, open mic Portland, and this place called Helium came up. I'm like, I don't know what a helium is, but at the time I was like, it says 3 to 5 minutes. I'm gonna go and do that. That says to sign up and say, that you're new if you're new. And then I know you're not really supposed to do this, but I invited people there to my first one through work, and people who I had met that day. Like, checks all the boxes of what you're not supposed to do, right? And these were guys who worked for a distributor. So my company builds equipment that they'll sell to their customers. So like, we're wanting to keep them happy. And one of the nice perks of my job is I get to take folks out to dinner and when it makes sense for business. And I did, and it was like, hey guys, I want to meet up and get some food and get some beer tonight. And they're like, yeah, sure. So after I signed up and got on the list, I texted them and just let them know, by the way, we're going to be at Helium on the Helium tonight. This is where I'm going to be if you want to like hang out. And they're like, yeah, absolutely, let's hang out. And then they show up. I'm like, by the way, go get us a table. I'm going to be pacing on the street like a lunatic trying to memorize stuff and rehearse because I'm going to do the open mic for the first time. And they were like, what?
Wow. Holy Toledo.
No matter what, it's going to be experience. I'm going to eat shit. It's going to be horrible or it's going to be great. Either way, we're going to bond.
Lovely. How did your first set go, Niko?
So Helium is known for having a very good crowd of people who want to have comedy. It could have definitely gone worse. It went well enough. I got laughs pretty quick into it. And I definitely wasn't the best set because it's my first set, obviously.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my wife about it. She kept telling me, write stuff down, just write stuff. I'm like, no, I memorized it. I wrote it. And she's like, no, and I didn't write it down. So of course, like that made it more challenging when you're standing there facing a bunch of people. It actually went pretty good. It went pretty well. And then after my set, it was nice too, because I got up early. So then I just got to enjoy everybody and have some drinks and food and hang out the folks that I invited. Then after the mic, we went to the bar in the back, had a drink, and met one of the comedians, Adam Posse, who I never.
You got to talk with Adam Posse, you brat. He's
so I didn't know. I was like,
you trip into Portland and just stumble upon the best comedy club and the best comedian.
He had just won Portland's Funniest like 3 days ago. So part of that was closing out the mic and he doing a longer set. And I didn't understand what any of this meant prior when they brought him up. I was like, so one of the things he talks about obviously is being Samoan. And I actually, part of the story I was telling in that 3-minute set, which is one of my favorite sets now, is because I've been able to develop it, is I actually got shipped away when I was younger to these places. And one of these places was in Samoa. So he is Samoan. So I went up to him at the bar. I'm like, dude, it's great to meet you. I laughed a ton. You're hilarious. And then I show him a tattoo I got on my leg based on some art I brought back from Samoa. So I didn't get the tattoo in Samoa, but I did. I'm like, hey man, I don't know if he caught my set, and he did catch some of it. He said, but I talked about going away to a place. It was actually Samoa. I didn't mention the name of the place, and I showed him the tattoo on my leg, and he's just like, dude, he's like, I've never been to Samoa. You're like more Samoan than me. and then he was really kind, and he said some positive like things and some critique that I really want because I just want to know how to get better. And then he's like, and I was hanging out with one of the guys that I brought there. The other one had left, and he's like, I'm gonna go. Adam said, I'm gonna go talk to some people, and I'll come back. And I didn't expect to ever see him again, and I didn't expect that. I wouldn't even think that was rude. Like I was very kind way to say bye. Then he comes back, and he's like, hey, a bunch of us comics are going to another mic. You want to go? And I was like, oh shit,
son of a bitch, you.
And then I was like, yes, inside I'm like, no, like I wanted to go, but at that point I'd had some drinks and I had it's not gonna be good, but hell yeah, am I gonna not do that? Absolutely. So I'm like, this is what we're doing. So the guy who had joined me, he was driving me and him over, myself and we drove over, and I was calling my wife, and I was like, "This is what's going on. Like, this is what just happened. This is crazy. I can't like I felt so amazing." And walking off that stage at Helium when you got a good anything like that through your body, like I have that feeling is not it's not a normal feeling to have, and it just
No.
absolutely incredible. And it was really funny too, because the Shane Brendan, Shane Brendan,
You son of a bitch.
one of the funniest humans I've ever encountered.
He's second underneath Adam Posse.
He was hosting that night at so when I went into the green room, he's like, I'm like, hi, I'm introduced myself, and he's like, hey, I'm the host, and we shook hands, and he's like, is your first time here? I'm like, it's my first time doing this at all ever. Like I had a hard time saying the word comedy, because like like first time doing this ever. So when he goes up and he does this set, now he could have done this without me saying that it was my first time, but it was so perfect. He goes on, he starts talking about things like, hey everybody, we're at the Helium open mic, and I've just got to say, if this is your first time doing comedy, you're at work and you make people laugh around the water cooler, you watch some Netflix specials and you think you're funny, maybe do it at like a bar, like some small place, maybe don't. And he's like, oh, you asshole, this is so hilarious. So then it was perfect, because then when I got to go up after the comedian that was after him, I got to go up and obviously like lay into that a little bit, be like, that's exactly who I am, so let's see how this goes, and then grab some easy early laughs. And I was like, that was awesome. So we went to Lamp.
Yes.
So we went there, and a lot of the comedians that were up there, I had just seen it in Helium, and just so funny. These people are so hilarious to a crowd of so few people that were there. At such a good time. And then Adam, nudges the host. He's like, hey, ask this guy if he wants to go up. And he asked me, and I'm like, sure. And inside I'm like, this is going to be awful, because like everyone had just seen what I had already done. I didn't have anything real much else to do, and none of it was that funny, but I powered through it and talked for about 5 minutes. And then afterwards, Adam's like, hey, we're all going to this place called Clinton House. You want to go to Clinton House? I'm like, sure. And it's a comedy house that I knew nothing about, and like just everybody was there just hanging out and having a good time, and it was just so fun. Got some good advice, and then at one point I'm like, I gotta go to work in the morning, so thank you for the time, like hanging out. And I took off, and I was like, this was absolutely incredible. And I'm very lucky that all those things hit. That's not a normal first comedy experience.
I'm from Portland, and I can tell you, I was with Harvey. Do you know about me at Harvey's Comedy Club, what I did?
I don't. I know of the club. I haven't been there, but no, I don't.
Well, Harvey's has had kind of a negative reputation, because they had someone in there in the past that was bouncing checks. And there's a rivalry between Helium and Harvey's. So I was with Harvey's, okay. But prior to being with Harvey's, I was at Helium, and there was no bad blood going to Harvey's. Just Harvey's was going to give me a lot of opportunities that me as an older comic was never going to get at Helium. It's just the way it is. And so I went over to Harvey's, and I was running 3 mics a week down at Pioneer Square for the club. I was putting on 2 mics a week at Harvey's, doing training, and in the telemarketing room, filling up the rooms whenever they needed. So yeah, these guys, they'd come into Harvey's once in a while, but they're loyal to Helium.
Okay.
And they have a right to be,
Yeah.
And that's, everybody's got their club. So now you're in Portland. This is your first night. Then you got Shane Brendan has been on TV with NBC Sports Northwest. Do you know this?
I knew I didn't know specifically, but I knew that was some of his history. That was his jam.
Yeah. And so he knows a lot about sports, and he's like best friends with Taylor Tomlinson. Do you know that?
I've seen her specials and know that she's like one of the most hilarious people I've ever seen.
And I started with Taylor Tomlinson six and a half years ago at Ace's Comedy in Murrieta, California. And she remembers me, but she's too important. I mean, she doesn't have time to all the people chasing her from her past. But Shane is best friends with her. So Shane and I have talked about, how I knew Taylor before she blew up. Yeah. I love anything that comes out of the mouth of either one of those 2 men you met. Adam Posse is the best.
He's great.
and Shane Brendan is like 1 inch below him, 1 inch below him, and really he should be considered on par because he's totally different, you know.
Yeah, and yeah, like I said, he's hilarious. I mean, anything I've heard Brendan say is anything in any set. There's no throwaway anything. It's just all hilarious, and that's like with Taylor Tomlinson. I'd never seen it before, and I saw a special on Netflix. I was like, there isn't a minute that's going by that you're not dropping just a ton of punches that are just making me laugh my ass off. It's just hitting you with it. And I love it.
Yes, I do. I do love it. These people work so hard. So that was he won Portland's Funniest 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That was August 2019 is when I was there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he won the year before. I don't know. But that was the year he won, was last year. It feels like 10 years that last year was, but
there were so many years he was in that where I was hoping he'd win prior years, you know, and he's been so patient to get to the point where he won, and he's done all the work, you know, the road work. And Helium is very big on promoting people if they've been on the road a lot and letting them teach. Wednesday night they have, like, you can drop in and get feedback, and
great.
Adam has been so devoted to, and Shane, to teaching people.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah. So you leave Portland, you're there for business. Now, you never did say this stuff that you sell. Who are your target? Like, who do you sell it to?
Yeah, so the industries that we sell to are breweries, distilleries, commercial bakery, like typically larger bakeries, and we're even in extraction. So
you
like
did
when they
say this.
Yeah. So those are the industries, and the folks that I had met with, their businesses typically works with breweries. So when they're selling their equipment and their stainless steel tanks and things, I sell the equipment that basically keeps things the right temperature. So like keeping the yeast happy with the beer, the yeast happy in the dough, and on extraction, the solvents and recovery and all these different things. So that's what I sell, and the Northwest is my territory. So I get to go to some cool places. I haven't actually performed in New York before. All those, those were all the Northwest. So Portland, Seattle, Tacoma, and then a couple of trips I did in California that I got to go up a couple of places. But I only went up about 30 times in, pre-pandemic. So not a lot. I mean, if you're not a comic, that might sound like a lot, but that's not a lot of times. And it wasn't very consistent. It might be like in 2 weeks, I'm going to go do 3 minutes somewhere. Or then in this week, I might do like three sets. So it just kind of all over until Zoom time, really.
Wow. So now, have you stayed in touch with Adam Posse and Shane Brendan?
Yeah, I mean, I've stayed more in touch with Adam. Me and I connected. When I do go to Portland, I'll hit him up sometimes, and I've got to see him after he performed, because I was doing some work stuff in Bend some months back, pre-pandemic. So that was fun because it had been a few months, and I'd done a bunch more mics, and we had more to talk about. So that was pretty cool. And,
anytime you go through Portland, anytime you can bring up my name to any of those people and tell them I love them. I'm like their fake grandmother.
I will. I absolutely will. Yeah, I saw him a few weeks ago ish at a outdoor mic in Portland. So I did travel a little bit for work. Obviously that kind of stopped a little bit with the pandemic, but I've done a couple of trips. So I got to go do my first set live in 7 months. And it was fun.
Where'd you do the live set?
So that was in Portland. I don't know if you know Amber Gill.
Yes, I do. I love Amber Gill. She's wackadoo.
Yeah, she's incredible.
She has like a little persona going on, and I don't know if she's aware it's a persona. She might just think it's her personality, but I'd rock that shit.
She's great. She's one of a kind for sure. And she puts on an outdoor mic at you'd have to hit up her Facebook to see exactly. I think it's Growler something. I remember the name, something with Growler.
Pacific Growlers.
Is that? It's I think it's something else, but it's in a parking lot. This little parking lot that they set up outdoors. They got two different mic stands. They swap them out between sets and sanitize them. A lot of comics actually bring their own mics. They got a food truck and beer out. So good outdoor space. and I went there a few weeks ago, and it was cool because I had met Amber on Zoom and met a few other comedians on Zoom, and hadn't seen them in real life before, and got to see them perform and got to hang out with them for a little bit and see Adam and some other folks I had seen in the past perform. So it was really fun.
That's so cool. Oh my gosh. So now you have a job and you've been doing comedy, and let's talk about Displaced Comedians. Will you plug the heck out of it, please?
I sure as hell will. Thank you, Linda. So about a month after the shutdown, I maybe even a few weeks, I saw a friend who, Carol Freeman, a very funny comedian, very cool person, who had been posted about being on one of these Zoom open mic things. And I'd seen some posts in some of the groups, and I joined a bunch of the regional groups. That's how I'd find out about the mic. So I was luckily already in a little bit in, several different scenes to kind of keep an eye on what's going on. And she was doing an open mic on somebody's, and I wanted to watch it, and I did. I'm like, that was pretty cool. How do I just lay out where I put my laptop so I have an angle that I like, and like that kind of thing, all these little things you got to think about. And then I did that one, and that mic was put on by Rachel Rothenberg, and she's great too. Is out of Salt Lake, and I went on. I did my first set on one. It did not go very well because new comedian. It was fine. It was an open mic,
Yeah.
but I knew it was like, okay, I didn't feel great after that. But I got to figure out how to make this work, because I was already standing in my garage rehearsing to my phone anyway, pre-pandemic, almost every night. So like, might as well get in front of humans and just try to work on stuff. Because when I traveled too, one thing I really wanted to do was, when I'd come back, I was like, why isn't there a way that we can just get on the internet and just do sets with people that are live in some way? And I looked at Twitch a little bit, but I never really like delved into it and figured out the technology, and really, because I didn't have the motivation at the time to do it. But I was like, I want to do sets, and had friends who were in areas that didn't do mics. I was like, dude, you're hilarious. You should do comedy. He's like, well, I can't actually go anywhere. I'm like, well, shit, there's got to be a way to do this. But I didn't go through the process of actually figuring it out. But then the pandemic hit, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to keep doing this. And then I did hers again, and then I saw some other mics that were out of Portland and some people doing them in California, and I was like, no one's putting this. I wasn't aware of anyone really putting this information together in a way that was really getting delivered in a way that, well, at least that I saw it. I just wanted to. I used to use Bad Slava, the website.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
At least the
Loved it.
starting point. I'm going to an area. These are some places to check out. I'll ask about these in the groups, and then drill down and figure out where to go. And they put that together. LG Ross, I think, did a ton of work in that. So it just kind of made me think of that. And I was like, well, there's got to be a way to keep track of all these 4 or 5 Zoom mics a week, because at the time I didn't know about a lot of them. And then I realized that I knew initially that in order to consolidate this information, delivered in the best way possible that I think is possible, is with the efforts I'm willing to put forward, was having some kind of engaging group. Like I didn't want to just have a website hanging out there that people could submit stuff to, because I didn't think that was going to get enough attention. And I knew that it's a live thing we have to be able to communicate about, which makes it harder. It'd be easy to just be like, here's a website. Not that Slob was easy. He does a ton more than that. But like, to make a website and just say, here's a couple mics, submit your information. That's fine, you can do that, and that is done a lot of places, but I wanted a more engaging atmosphere. So I made a group and decided that in order to see this, I wanted you to be in the group. Not that I was like hoarding information, but like I want to encourage the behavior of growth and like it being a community. So I made a post on it. So I started the group Displaced Comedians, invited a bunch of Facebook friends and a lot of folks that I had met doing live. Some have since embraced Zoom comedy, some have not. That's fine. Everyone's got their jam. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And then I had initially it was a really long post on Facebook, like on the announcements, a really long post to just edit. It was really hard to manage, and it was slow. It was hard to access. It was hard to read it. So eventually I just decided to make it into a Google spreadsheet. And what I would do is I would basically interrogate people for the information that I thought was important to share, because a lot of people are like, yeah, I got a mic on Tuesday at 6. I'm like, okay, well, is it every Tuesday? What time zone? How long are sets? How do we sign up? Is it streamed anywhere? Because a lot of it is streaming, which is wild, because you're like, it's an open mic. Why should anybody see any of this? But some of them being streamed is great. Like a lot of them are streamed. So I like that balance that are streamed and not. I like them for different reasons and like all these different things. And then I imagine some of their opinions, it was like, why is this guy bugging me for all this information? Because at that time, I wasn't showing a value of what I was bringing to them. I'm the one extracting value from them. So I just, kept on those conversations and finally consolidated in a way that we started having just a bunch more added to it. And now I still keep an eye out on all those groups. If I see a mic that I don't know about, I still interrogate them a little bit and try to get that information, make sure that they're okay with being listed on the thing. Cause I care a little bit about that. Just cause I want to have a connection with whoever's running it when I put that on there. And being on that list is great, but I tell people still be in the group and be engaging and post when you want signups, because that's where you get activity. And now we've grown to 4,000 members, as right around there, with plus or minus a few. And it's weird. It's been crazy. There's been a lot of activity, some of it activity that's not positive, but just managing that has been quite a challenge, especially over the last couple of weeks. But I think overall it's a positive place. A lot of people just wanting to help each other get funny in an environment that really, I think, drives towards the workshop, the let's talk, let's help each other. And there's comedians on there that are very new. There are comedians on there that have started only in Zoom, and there are comedians on there who have been around for a while. And it's been fun, and I just really appreciate everybody who puts on all these mics, because as I mentioned in the intro there, I've been hosting on Flappers, co-hosting. Lissa Peltz is my co-host. We work together. One of us will show run, one of us will do the MC and the talking part, which I love. And I see there's a lot of work in that, and I appreciate everybody putting in the effort. Right now, I got on that list 127 mic occurrences a week that people can go to, and pretty much any time, any day, you can see where to go tell jokes.
I know my friends in New York, like Bruce Lipsky, Helene Witt,
oh yeah,
Tom Padavant, they all, rave about you and all the work you've done to make it accessible.
Yeah,
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much. I've told jokes with both of those people and have enjoyed their sets and have enjoyed trying to make them laugh.
They're nuts. We're all nuts in different ways.
Yeah.
We're all so special. So what's the goal for you? How are you going to be? Couple things. How are you going to be a better human having gone through the pandemic? Better husband, better father, better boyfriend, better dog owner, whatever your jam is. How are you going to be better?
Oh, wow. So I am a father and husband. I have 3 wonderful kids, amazing, supportive wife.
The ages of the kids, and do they know their sex yet?
I shouldn't have laughed. I don't know if I was supposed to laugh. I don't know.
Cancel.
I don't fucking know. Anyway, so to my understanding, they are all understanding of their genders. A 4-year-old daughter, and a 10-year-old boy and an 11-year-old boy.
Wonderful. And you've been married how long?
Oh gosh, about 3,500 years. 17 years.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah. So we met and connected, and I was 19, and that was it.
You ever been in the military?
I have not. No.
You ever played football?
I have not.
What was your thing in high school? I pegged you for a football.
Oh wow! So
defensive lineman, to be exact.
Horrible. I do a joke talking about volleyball is the only sport I was any good at, and that was when I was in Samoa. So when I was 15, I got and this I'll try not to do a set when I'm talking about it. When I was 15, I got kicked out of high school for selling.
You can do a set. I know how to laugh.
For selling, I got kicked out of high school for selling weed when I was 15, because you're not supposed to do that. There is one of the first jokes of that. And then I ended up going to juvie for a few weeks, and then I ended up hanging out with a bunch of homeless people for a few months. I had a home and everything, but like during the day, like that's where I went and hung out. When I'm between schools, I ended up failing probation by smoking a bunch of weed on probation and not appropriately managing my tests, which I talk about too in the set, where they don't grade you on a curve for a drug test. It doesn't matter how many you passed. Just matters how many you screw up. And then I got sent to all these programs for a few years. So my high school experience was kind of weird. I wasn't like into sports or anything like that, just hanging out with my friends and smoking weed and then getting in trouble for it. And then I ended up getting shipped off to I lived in the woods of Utah for about 8 weeks, in one of these programs they send teenagers to. And then I got shipped to Samoa. So that's why I was there for about a year and a half. And then I was in a program in Bend, Oregon for about a year. And then when I was out of there, that's when I met my wife, and she did a very good job of deprogramming me from like, because they convince you you're a piece of shit and you can't like do anything without the authorities like guiding you to what it's hard to explain the
I get it.
process of how they did it there. So yeah, that took quite a bit. And
I was once in a cult. They call it the army.
Oh my gosh. Oh, for a second, I was like, wait, yeah. You've definitely had experience in that in a way that most people haven't experienced.
Yeah. So I was in juvenile for a night. My parents were fighting, and so my dad narked on my mother, and they picked us up.
And had a sleepover.
Yes, I got to sleep in an open bay with other criminals. I mean, I was criminal, but they didn't catch me for anything. They put me in there that night for something my parents did. So white privilege, I can't help it.
You're like, I'm not even in here for this. I am supposed to be here, but not for this.
I was like, let me confess what I've done. I don't want to go home.
Keep me.
Oh my gosh. So, and I would rather talk to 14,000 homeless people one by one than some rich person. I love the homeless population. I've gone and done comedy for transition projects in Portland. I love homeless people are the best. You can learn so much about a town if you just talk to a homeless person.
They've seen a lot. I had it was those few months while they were a weird time. I had a great time. Like, it was fantastic. Like, I hung out with people who like it just had some great interesting stories. It doesn't mean they're necessarily all good people or bad. It's not black and white. Stuff happens. People have lives, and you could have everything, and next thing you're smoking crack in a van, and it's like, it's just, obviously there's some things in between those things, but like it's interesting, and it was a weird time, and it was a weird time.
Yes, I was homeless one time because somebody told me rent was cheap in San Francisco, and I believed them. And I got there and had to get a $300 van and find a mattress on the side of the road to sleep in. Like, you do what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah. I realized I didn't answer your question on how I'm going to be a better anything after this, because I'm like thinking about that. I don't know. Like, obviously, I think like everybody, you're going to appreciate things more. I mean, I think that's a big part of it is and also come away learning now that we know this. Now this doesn't help me be a better person or parent or anything, but around the world, I could pretty much go anywhere and say, hey, I'm going to go here. And somebody knows somebody who's doing a show, or even just to connect, even if it wasn't like there's just the way that we can do this. And it makes me think of when I was a kid and I was a nerd, and I got, I spent my bar mitzvah money on a computer and did dial-up internet, the bulletin board systems, and on, IRC, internet relay chat before, like before everybody was, not saying like, oh, it did before school, but like that was when you were to do those things, you were a nerd, and now it's just like normal. And just connect with people and communicate and hang out and share stories, and all kind of be in places where it doesn't really matter where you are, and we're kind of there again. In a crazy way. And I think just appreciating everything a bit more, and time as well. I think overall people are going to be healthier, because we're going to, I hope, more embrace like, hey, you're sick, wear a mask, so we're just in general, hopefully, I'm hoping that kind of happens in our culture overall. But I'm definitely looking forward to being able to, actually go do things with my family out different places. But we've definitely, spent more time together, because before I was traveling, I'd be gone 50+% of the time. And that's going to, happen again. And that's fine. It's just the time together is just going to be a little different. And I don't know, it's wild. And I'm not happy that any of this is happening, though there are some things that are changing in ways that are not bad, I think.
That's right. Yeah. You're placing yourself in perfect position. So when the world does open, you'll have connections everywhere to platform, branch out.
Yeah. Yeah, and
in person.
I don't know the goal, like comedy wise. When I started, it was just like I just wanted to be able to, when I travel, go to a mic, do a set, and make people laugh. Like hoping, like I want to get some of. I'm not necessarily gonna have that same feeling as that first time at Helium, but like, I just want to be able to do it, and like I could either hang out in my hotel room or I could, go out some nights. So I'm fortunate to be able to do that and to get different places because in order to be and I could be way off base. I don't know. I'm new at this. Like to be the, larger name comedian, if that's what your goal is, takes the grinding effort that I'm just not going to, I don't see myself putting in physically. I mean, but online, who knows? I don't know. Like I'm building material. Most of the stuff I do, like none of the material I do now, I did live, and I've got a, decent amount of material now. And I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go, but I just want to get better at doing comedy and help people connect.
Absolutely. So, have you ever seen anybody doing comedy and you said, that's the venue I have to do before I die? Do you have one of those?
I wish I did, but I
Do
hadn't really.
do you want to hear mine?
I want to hear yours. This is going to be more interesting because now I'm thinking like, not really, but yeah. No, I really want to hear yours. I got to think about mine. I want to hear yours though.
I'll tell you mine so that you can think.
All right.
I love New York. I'm a New Yorker in my heart. I can't afford to live there, so I'm not a New Yorker in my pocketbook, but I would love to do Madison Square Garden.
That'd be awesome.
And it's like, why am I even saying this? The most I've ever done on stage is 20 minutes, so, like doing Madison Square Garden, please, but I don't care. A girl's got a dream.
Hell yeah.
You got to have something bigger than yourself. That's all. I really believe that, like, for me to put up with, listen, in Portland, I'm older, I'm white, I'm heterosexual. I'm the reason most Portland comics started smoking. I get on stage and they'd be like, I gotta smoke. I saw Adam Posse and Jane Brendan and all of them go, not her again. I got to go outside. So, yeah.
I'll remind him of him next time I see him.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember Adam pulling me aside and going, that was good. Now, if you told that joke the right way, it would really work.
Feedback.
I know, man, every time he would be so patient and so loving, and he didn't have to be, because I've been to Helium and there's been people not of his kindness in charge.
Yeah.
And he makes you feel so welcome and like you're not an idiot for trying comedy at this late in the game, because I started when I was 63 with a brain injury. Niko, have I given you enough time to think of your answer?
I don't know that I got a specific place, and it might sound small, but I don't know. I did my first mic at Helium. I would love to someday do a paid, like, this is, people are here to see Niko someday. That'd be freaking awesome.
I'd love to see Niko Lukoff on their board outside.
Yeah.
See your name in lights up there on the board. That'd be cool. Your name is perfect for comedy. Did you plan that? Did your parents, did your family know you were funny growing up?
Oh, so I do a bit about how I grew up in a household with no humor. And it's true. Like, we didn't really joke around at all. It's a Jewish household, so some of the joke goes, our only roast were briskets. I enjoy telling that. And so no, like, I mean, growing up, no, like, and I know that's like a lot of people like, oh, I performed since I was this age. It's always been my thing. And no, growing up, like, I was in the group of friends. I was typically the one getting laughs, but that didn't mean a whole lot because my friends weren't always all that funny.
Yes.
But I enjoyed that, but I never really pursued anything like that. Like, I wrote poems and stuff when I was a kid, and then when I was in that last program in Oregon and band, I would go do like open mics, like doing poetry stuff. But there, it didn't matter if what you did was, I mean, open mic comedy doesn't matter if you're good or not too, but I mean, there it's like they're gonna cheer for you just for being there and saying anything. It doesn't, you're not trying to grab laughs, so not really. It's funny too, because my wife deprogramming me, that has opened some things to, because I was embarrassed very easily. I did not like being laughed. It was very easy for me to feel like I was being laughed at in ways that I did not like, and I was very insecure. So she's peeled that away over the years. And now if it's funny, it goes. Like, that's in our household. So our kids, we roast each other in loving, fun ways. And it's funny because you talk to my wife about, I'm like, my uncle over here, he was kind of an asshole to his kids. And I learned, like, no, that's just how people, they were just having a good time. Like, I don't know, maybe he still was an asshole, but like, just that culture of joking and ribbing each other and just having a good time. That wasn't something I grew up with. So now I have a different angle, and it's just kind of unlocked all these things. And it's funny too, my parents watched my first booked show, and that was on Flappers on Zoom. So, it's unpaid, but I did a 2-minute audition. I was nervous, excited, got through did the audition from a hotel room, because Zoom, and did a 5-minute, spot on this show. So my parents were actually watching while I'm talking to people about them sending me away. While I'm talking about how it was very nice, they hired a Jewish lawyer that was very good. And it was a weird thing that kind of brought me and my sister a bit closer too, because there were some things that we both thought that were inaccurate about each other at the time, because my sister had just gone to college when I was at home and was getting in trouble. So she had some feelings about that, and me, to her. So we communicated. It's actually brought us pretty close. And now she'll go and pop on and watch any Zoom that I'm on. She won't always have like a video on or whatever, but I know she's there, and she'll text me later like, good job. I like seeing the stuff evolve and different things of encouragement.
That's great. Yeah, my sister and I grew up in a half Jewish household. My dad survived the Holocaust, and my mother gave of her body every week to the SS in Frankfurt to keep her family out. So I had parents who were kind of out to lunch. They weren't really present to be parents. They were still deep. There was no way to deprogram. They didn't know how to deprogram. And so us kids got into trouble a lot. And so my sister she remembers things from our childhood, and I remember other things. And when we talk, she's more outspoken than me, and I'll say something, some memory, and she'll say no. And I'll go, yes. And, I used to just let her trump me, and now I'm saying, no, we came from two different households. You remember whatever your selective memory wants you to, because we had a shitty upbringing, and I remember whatever I want to, but these jokes are funnier now that my parents have passed on. I gotta say, I wouldn't be doing them if they were alive.
And then I go back to so many things too that I've told so many stories. I'm like, is that the true one or not? Like,
yes,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
what matters anymore?
Nothing matters.
But also the whole experience getting sent away and stuff, I get to do a set that nobody else has. Like, I'm not worried, did somebody do this joke? Because especially initially, I'm the observational day-to-day stuff I'm not great at. I think is one of the most difficult things to do, to see everything that everybody else sees, but just different enough that you can then connect the dots and jump and pivot. Like, I think those are the people that I'm super impressed by. And I've got a few bits like that are just about observations of weird things connecting, but a lot of it is that, getting shipped away and all these weird experiences and in that. And I'm, it's still building, and that's growing, and that's definitely not, that process isn't over, and it's never going to be.
What's your favorite observational thing? Since that's not really your jam.
I'm going to tell you two. My favorite, and so this is the line that I did on stage, but I changed up how I did it, is I think volleyball was invented for people who just don't know how to catch.
And and tetherball.
And then if anybody ever does that, hey, you do comedy, you're a comedian, what's the joke? And like, everybody like poo-poo that, like, that's my go-to. Like, I enjoy that. I go a little further into it in a bit. And then the other one that I'm going to say now, especially because we're interviewing, and this has been my favorite one to work on lately, is essentially talking about how a podcast is just an internet date with a theme. And then that was the line that started, and then everything else kind of grew around that. And that was just like, I was just like, oh, that's fun. And then I've been working, now it's like 2.5-ish minute bit that goes in.
Wow.
That's pretty fun. So those are my probably my two favorite, like, just this is a weird observation kind of thing.
My favorite observation, and it's a work in progress and I don't use it hardly anymore at all, but I love it, is that it just pisses me off so much. Every single store you go to, you're inside the store and you're looking at the door going out, and it says, caution, doors must remain open during business hours. And I'm like, what kind of idiot employees are you hiring where you have to remind them of this?
Keep the doors closed after business, open them, like, that's like, yeah, that's fun. That's great. And those things like that, that to see it and call it out in a fun way is an incredible thing, and it's not easy. I think it's one of the most difficult things to do. It sounds, pre-comedy, it would have sounded like the easiest thing to do, because like, oh, you're just talking. Like, dude, these people worked on this and like planned out and made you want to feel like they just thought of it in every moment and connect you with this emotion and and get these reactions. And yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. So I talked about a whole lot of things with you, but in your time, what's the biggest thing you learned about comedy that totally, other than tripping into the best place and meeting the best comics in my hometown and getting called a son of a bitch on my show, like what's been something that you did not expect to happen in comedy?
Like a surprising experience in oh my gosh.
Like good or bad, and you don't have to say who or what club, but like, did you see a fight almost break out? Did you see
Oh, I
a
hear.
really bad or good heckler, or a great way to handle something, or a terrible booker, or terrible people, or
You know, I'm trying to think of a specific story, a specific instance, because my live stuff wasn't super dramatic. And so what surprised me the most, just in general, so this surprised me a lot. The fact that there are so many incredibly ridiculously talented people that I would have never seen if I didn't walk on a stage and do an open mic. I had no clue that there's so many talented comedians that get to see in all these different areas. So it's not like a specific instance or a fun story, but it's something that's always keeps blowing my mind, because I would travel and I go these places, and if you're not from that area, how the hell would you know XYZ comedian? There's no
yes,
reason why. You might someday now, because they might be coming to, but like, they're not a household name. And I'm obviously just a very, I'm obviously a fan of comedy. Like, this is why I'm in it. I just love it so much, and experiencing and seeing it. Just being able to go to a town and being like, holy shit, that was incredible. And seeing somebody on stage, and it's been a lot of people, like Shane Brennan was one of those people, like, and just a lot of folks. I'm just like, holy crap. And I hope I see him elsewhere too, but it's just like, it's blown me away in a way that I don't think I can communicate that appropriately to anybody who's never done it. And that's just been awesome. And that's been a super fun treat. That's also a treat on doing the Zoom stuff. Obviously some stuff is different than others, but being able to see comedians and hop on, and like, I was on one that was put on by a comedy club, and then afterwards we were hanging out, I was talking to people, and I didn't realize someone I was talking to was like a professional comedian who like does like headlining, sets. So I was like, hey, do you want to do some more Zoom mics, join my group, and they were like, yeah, I'll do that, but I'm also like not doing a whole lot of mics or whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's not your jam. Okay, cool. Which I know working comedians still do, but I was like, I didn't know, like, why would I have known who the hell you are? We're just one, and now we're on the same, not the same level. Like, I'm with, like, just when we're talking, all that really matters is, are you being funny right now? And that on that one set when you're doing, which must be really hard, I think, for people who were successful, because
yep,
that's not me. So I'm like this and like this, and likely they're like, oh shit, now I'm here and this is what I have to deal with. It's been
yes,
a weird thing to be able to see and experience, and I've enjoyed a lot of it.
yes, yes. Who's a comedian you've never met who's inspired you that you have to meet before you kick the bucket?
um, I think John Mulaney's incredible, and I would like to I'd like to say hello to him sometime. If someone's like, hey, who's your favorite working comedian just overall, that's my go-to. And
Boy, did I like him on Saturday Night Live. That was
he
awesome.
did great. You know, one thing that I really enjoyed, I really like seeing jokes evolve and change. And like, I like listening to albums of people who maybe aren't super famous, but like, because those are the folks, a lot of times they have multiple albums where they'll overlap some jokes, and seeing things evolve. And it was cool. I saw John Mulaney did a joke that he had done in another time that worked for that moment. And that was kind of a little thing, but I just was like, I just enjoyed that. I was like, because I was thinking like people are coming up with new stuff all the time, and all the stuff was new, but I'm just saying like one of the bits he did that was kind of short was one that I had seen before. And I was like, this guy, like, who's an amazing professional, like, you're going to go back to stuff that then connects to what you're doing now. And it's just a little, I don't know, something I thought of that I enjoyed and appreciated. But yeah,
Have you ever, I would like to piggyback on that thought real quick.
Sure.
Have you ever been a fan of any comedy that Woody Allen did? Stand up.
I haven't seen much, so I couldn't call specifically to it. Should I?
Yes, I don't like all comics once they become famous and get in the grind and they become something different.
Yeah.
And I don't like him later in life, but when he was the very first time he was on late night, he was a nervous wreck. He was, like, that's so encouraging to me that somebody that garnered as much fame and almost threw his fame away in the regard of his wife and the babysitter or whatever, all the things he's accomplished in his life, to see him the very first time he was on late night be so nervous, like pathetically nervous, and it's just so endearing. And it was, to me, it was the best set I've ever seen him do. He Ziggy Susser.
I don't.
You know Ziggy. Okay. Ziggy's a comic along with Helene and Bruce out in New York.
Okay.
And his comedy is styled after that kind of comedy back in the day, because Ziggy's a little nervous. He's a little verklempt with, like awkward on stage. He has a bird on his shoulder, sometimes a real bird. And he does the same kind of like this, but, however, like this, but then this, like this, and I love the very beginnings of Woody Allen.
All right, I might need to check that out. And come think of it, I might have, if he's been on Zoom, that name is familiar. I just don't recall right off the bat for Ziggy, but I'll check him out too. It's been fun to be able to connect with so many people all over.
Yes, there's so many to connect with. Oh my gosh. What's your favorite country you've performed with?
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of not a fair question, but I'm curious. Like, give me a country you really enjoyed and why. It doesn't have to be your favorite. I guess that's fair.
I mean, most of the Zooms I've done have been US based. But there was I don't know if you know Anthony Woodhouse Jr.
Yeah.
He does some international shows, and he's done like a Sunday afternoon kind of, mic / invite show kind of thing on Zoom. And I don't even remember the country. So I don't even know the country of the people that I was in the room with, but I will say this, it was incredible. I was the only white male in the Zoom at the time.
Wow.
And it was really cool. I knew people were from different countries. I honestly wasn't sure where, but just every shade of everything. And it was really fun because some of the stuff that I do is, translated. I don't have a lot of I don't do like political stuff necessarily, or like specific area stuff, and the stuff that I did seemed to work, and getting to laugh with them and see them and hear their jokes too was incredible. So I know that's not a specific country, but there was just a lot of folks, and it was really cool to see. And I was just like, this is awesome. This walking into a mic in the United States, this would not likely, most of them, this is not the experience that I would have.
Yes.
We're guaranteed.
Well, you've been so awesome to take so much time, but I want to give you up to 5 minutes, if you want it, to say anything you want to people that will watch this on your pages or my pages on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, and talk to people just like so they know you off stage as best. If there's anything I haven't covered, cover it.
All right. Awesome. So like we talked about, I'm married and have 3 kids. They're all just fantastic humans. Just and very fortunate in that too, especially with everything being closed down and we're in such close quarters all the time. Um, uh, we talked about Displaced Comedians, and if you're a comedian, love for you to join that. I just think it's incredible that so many people are coming together to do cool stuff, and for the most part, in a really, really positive way. At least in the community that I, that started and that I feel gracious to be a part of, and all the people that like take so much time to like put on these shows, because I know it's not nothing to hustle it around. Even this is, you say, just on the internet, but communicating with everybody and dealing with everybody to show up in the right time in the right place, and driving them there, and then actually running the tech and keeping things going and keeping things alive. I just think it's very cool, and I look forward to when things are more open up and I'll actually perform. I've never even done stand up in my town I live in, because I just did it when I traveled, so I look forward to doing that.
What exact town do you live in?
So I live in Nampa, Idaho. It's about half an hour west of Boise. So it's just kind of where we ended up after living in Oregon and looking for somewhere we could afford to live.
Absolutely.
after we got married. And outside of comedy, I say I like so we like be like, if I wasn't doing comedy more, I would probably just be curing and smoking more bacon and pastrami and other kinds of meats, different things, baking and all the kinds of fun stuff. So yeah, I really appreciate the platform and being able to hang out and talk to everybody. If you want to see any of the shows I'm on, I post them all on Instagram. Yeah.
That's super cool. I look forward to checking out where you're going to be next. And I don't really want to run a mic. I did that for a long time, and it's hard enough doing a mic in person. I can imagine how hard it is to run a mic on Zoom. Give me a break.
It's wild. I being able to do some of the show running stuff. I already appreciate it a lot, but I have even a much further appreciation of, especially the people who do the hosting and do the tech at the same time, and do a good job of both, because not everybody does. And and we've all been there, but it's a weird thing, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much for coming on, Niko. One last little question. I have another favorite comedian in Portland, and if you met him, I'll never speak to you again. On your one time that you tripped into helium and didn't know where you were at, you're like, no, I'm in the Wizard of Oz and my house just landed on the best place in the planet. Okay, so did you meet Noriko Ott?
I don't believe we met in person. I've heard his name a lot, and we're Facebook friends, and I've commented on a couple things or whatever, but I don't recall actually like meeting and hanging out.
He's like a Dennis Miller, like his stuff is polarizing.
Okay.
Because it's political. He will go there, but it's smart comedy like George Carlin.
Oh, nice.
You'll love him. He won Portland's Funniest a couple years before Adam.
I'll have to check out his clips. And there's funny that you mentioned his stumbling upon like helium, because like the next open mic I went to, I was like, so do you guys, where's your green room?
No, you didn't.
Who the fuck are you? And I was at like Spokane Comedy Clubs, like the third mic I ever did. Like, oh, we're at a comedy club. Is there a green, like, they're like, who the fuck is this asshole? Like, I don't know. There wasn't helium. I knew you'd appreciate that.
This is a movie. This could be a you could go on the road and do a doc. You could just continually pretend you don't know what you're doing and make you're like the who is it that you're like I'm
gonna make you answer that question.
you're like the guy that's got the, hold up, I'll get his name. You gotta hear this one. You're the Yakov Smirnov. Like you're like from another country. You're like the guy from Down Under that tripped into New York City.
Oh yeah.
But you're like, you should just pretend that you don't know what the hell you're doing, and you could be like Jimmy Kimmel's sidekick, the Hispanic guy that goes out on the street.
Oh yeah. I should do that.
Oh, you're fun to talk to. Thank you
Thanks a
so
lot.
very much for this time. I will post my thoughts and on the post. And you're, as a graduate of Comic Spot, you're now on the same level as Sinbad.
Fantastic. Thank you so incredibly much and dealing with me and trying to schedule and stuff and all that.
No
I really
problem.
appreciate you so much and doing this. And I look forward to seeing other interviews too. I've had a wonderful time hanging out with you and look forward to seeing you more on Zoom too.
Thank you. And you get to come back on once a month and plug anything you want.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah, come back on for 5 to 7 every month.
All right. We'll do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great
Bye.
day.